कृष्ण हरे हरे
हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
प्रथमं सद्गुरुं वन्दे श्रीकृष्णं तदनन्तरं पापात्मनां त्राताम् श्रीकृष्णस्य त्वमलात्मनाम् चेतो दर्पणमार्जनम् भवमहा दावाग्निर्वापणम् श्रेय कैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणम् विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दाम्बुधिवर्धनं प्रतिपदम् पूर्णामृतास्वादनम् सर्वात्मस्नपनं परं विजये श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनम् नमः कमलनाभाय नमः कमलमालिने नमः कमलपादाय नमस्ते कमलेक्षण यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तग्वंह देवमात्मबुद्धिपाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये. Dear devotees, please join me in a few minutes of Nam Sankirtan, and after that, I'll speak on the topic of the nature of the world. Bhajo giridhar govinda gopala Giridhar Govinda Gopala.
Bhajo 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 giridhar Govinda Gopala.
बोलिए वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की। In the previous lectures, you've learned that the aim of all of our lives is to attain God. Only by attaining God can we experience perfect happiness, or what we call Anand. And you also learned that this is only possible while we're in a human birth. Only human beings can perform karma, and only human beings have the ability to follow the path to God and attain Him. You also learned that because God is divine and unlimited, and our faculties, meaning our mind and our senses, are material or mayic and limited, there's nothing that we can do on our own to attain God. All of our efforts are material. Anything we do will be limited, and through any amount of limited material effort, unlimited divine God cannot be attained. So then it was explained to you that God is gracious, and many souls, uncountable souls, have attained God, but only through His grace. Those souls who received God's grace became God-realized and attained the ultimate goal of their life. And those who haven't attained, who haven't received God's grace, all of us, We're still under the bondage of Maya and striving to find that perfect happiness. What determines who receives God's grace and who doesn't? That also was explained to you, that there's something called Sharanagati, surrender. Those souls who surrendered to God received God's grace, and with God's grace became God realized. There's no other way. And you also learned that surrender is done by the mind. This is how far we've come in this series so far. It's not just the body that has to be surrendered. In fact, we've surrendered our body many times. Every time we go to the mandir and do pranam, we've surrendered our body. And yet that never resulted in receiving God's grace and becoming God realized, because while our body was bowing down to God, our mind was still attached in the world. This is the crux of the situation. The critical element is the attachment of the mind. Because our mind is already attached in the world, it can't go and become attached to God. We can't surrender our mind to God because it's already surrendered in the world. This worldly attachment is deep, and it has existed since eternity. We've always had our mind attached in this world, and that's why we've been unable to surrender our mind to God, and that's why we've remained bereft of God's grace, even though God is ready to grace us at any second. There's no delay from His side, but we have free will, and as of yet, we haven't decided to surrender our mind to God. All of our efforts up until now have been like the time that in Mathura, some men got intoxicated and decided, hey, the ghat is right here, Yamuna ji is flowing by, why don't we jump in one of these boats and head down to Prayag? The current flows that way, it'll be easy going. We can paddle and we'll reach there by the morning. We'll go and see Triveni, Sangam. So a bunch of them jump in the boat and start paddling. They paddle the whole night. Keep in mind they're intoxicated. And when it comes morning, it starts to get a little bit light out. One of them looks at the banks of the river and he says, you know, that mandir reminds me a lot of the one on the bank of the river in Mathura. Another one says, yes, doesn't it? And that building looks very familiar too. In fact, this ghat looks so familiar. And then they realize, we're still in Mathura, and they look behind, and the boat was tied to the ghat the whole night. They paddled, and they didn't get anywhere. All of our efforts are just like this. Our mental attachment is like an anchor, keeping us bound to this world. We do thousands of hours of bhakti. We do jap, we chant God's name, we visit holy places, we do pujan, we do pat. And yet we've never become surrendered to God because our mind has always remained attached in the world. So all of our efforts have been just that. They've been effort, but we haven't gotten the result we're looking for. So we need to detach our mind from the world so we can surrender it to God. What is detachment? Detachment means not having rag or dvesh. Virag, we say in Hindi, vairagya. But it's not just rag, it's rag and dvesh. Positive attachment and negative attachment. Or you could say like and dislike, love and hate. Both types of attachment keep our mind bound in the world, and both really give the same result. Whether your mind is attached to someone or something through love or through hate, you will attain them. Yanti devavrata devan pitrin yanti pitrivrata bhutani yanti bhutejya yanti madhyajinopimam. Gita. Shri Krishna explains, whatever you attach your mind to, that is what you are going to attain after death. So if our mind is attached in the world, we'll be reborn in the world. And if our mind is fully attached to Him, we'll go to Him. But that attachment has two sides. If you love someone, your mind melts for them and they enter your mind. Just like if you have some wax and you apply some heat to it, it melts, it liquefies. Now if you add some powdered color to it and mix it in, that wax becomes colored, and there's no way to separate the color from the wax anymore. As long as the wax was hard, the color couldn't penetrate it, but as soon as it melted, it penetrated. This is what happens when our mind is lovingly attached to someone in the world. They actually enter into our mind. They become one with our mind, and we even take on their characteristics. And when we dislike someone or hate someone, the same thing happens. Our mind melts for them, and that person we hate enters our mind. When we're fault-finding in someone, what we're doing is we're actually thinking about that person with deep emotional attachment. I don't like that thing about that person. That melts our heart, and the very fault we dislike is now merging and becoming one with our mind. The very thing we despise has just become one with us. So it's important to understand that being detached from the world doesn't just mean not having loving attachment in the world. It also means not despising anything in the world. Being neutral is the state we want to achieve. Udasinata. You see, the gopis who loved Shri Krishna and Kans who feared Shri Krishna, see, gopis had a positive attachment, Kans had a negative attachment. They both attained the same thing. See the state of the gopis. Yadohane vahanane mathano pale papreng khenkhanar bharudito charnamarjanadau gayanti chainam dhiyo shrukantyo dhanyo vrajastriya urukrama chittayana. Bhagavat. The gopis remembered Shri Krishna every second of the day, no matter what they were doing, milking the cows, churning the curd, taking care of their child, cooking. Whatever they were doing smaran of Shri Krishna internally. They may have been singing about his leelas or his personality, or even in silence, they were always shedding tears in remembrance of Shri Krishna. Jita dekhun tit shyama mayi hai. He was so much absorbed into their consciousness that everywhere they looked, they saw only him. This is an example of positive attachment. The gopis, through this love for Shri Krishna, because their mind became one with him, they attained him. And Kans, instead of loving Shri Krishna, he feared Shri Krishna. He saw Shri Krishna as death personified. Oh, he's going to come and kill me. He thought of him so much that it became to the point that everywhere he looked, when he looked at his clothing, he saw Shri Krishna. When he looked at his thali of food, he saw Shri Krishna. When he looked at his servant, he saw Shri Krishna. Everywhere he looked. In other words, he thought of Shri Krishna so much, Shri Krishna became absorbed into his consciousness and he became one. Kamam krodham bhayam sneha maikyam sauhridamevacha Nityam harau vidadhato yanti tanmayatam hite. Bhagavat. Shukadev Ji Paramahans tells Parikshit that it doesn't matter what the emotion is. If your mind is emotionally attached to Shri Krishna, whether it's a positive or negative emotion, you're going to attain Him because your mind will become one with Him. The same thing happens in the world. Whether we love or hate the world enters into our mind, becomes one with our mind, and we will attain the world. So we have to achieve a state of neutrality towards the world. Now keep in mind that this state of mental detachment from the world is not necessarily, you see, let's say somebody has physically renounced the world. Does that mean that they are also mentally renounced? Not necessarily. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. It is possible to physically renounce the use of worldly objects and still do smarana of that object. You still desire the object that you've physically renounced. This is what the Gita tells us. So keep in mind that we are not just seeking a state of physical renunciation. If that were the only thing required, then all of the animals would be considered renounced. They live in the forest with no proper house, no proper clothing, no television, no music, no entertainments, no tasty food, just whatever they find and eat. So, according to this, they should be considered renounced. But they're not, because renunciation is not a physical state, it's a mental state. In fact, we shouldn't be under the misconception that we don't need this world at all. We do need this world. This body is our means of performing devotion or following the path to God. Sadhana Dham moksha kar dwara. Ramayana tells us that this is the vehicle we can use to do sadhana, to practice devotion to God. That's how important this human body is. Tan binu bhajan ved nahi barna, sharir madhyam khalu dharma sadhanam. So this body is so valuable because it's our vehicle to perform devotion, and this body is a material thing that depends on the world. So how can we think that we should physically renounce the entire world? It's not even possible. Sharir yatram. This world is needed sharir ko chalane ke liye. The world is needed to support and maintain the body. So it's not a mere physical renunciation of the world that's required, and in fact, complete renunciation of the world is not even possible as long as you're residing in a material body. Even after God realization, saints still eat and sleep and take medicine and wear clothing. In other words, they still support their body by making use of the world. You see, there's an age-old debate between those who believe that we exclusively only need material progress. We call that bhautikvad. And those who believe, no, we exclusively only need spiritual progress. We call that adhyatmavad. It's an age-old debate between these 2 points of view. But Jagat Guru Shri Kripaluji Maharaj has reconciled these two points of view, and he says, no, both extremes are incorrect. In fact, material and spiritual progress are supposed to complement each other. Understand that your spiritual goal is the ultimate goal because you're a divine soul. So only God's happiness can satisfy your soul. And since your true self is the soul, your true goal is to attain God, but you, the soul, inhabit a material body. So you also need the world. The world should be made use of, not indulged in. यह संसार हमारे उपयोग के लिए है, हमारे उपभोग के लिए नहीं. The world was never meant for us to indulge in, to indulge our senses in worldly pleasures with the goal of attaining perfect happiness. That's not what the world is for. So if we view the world in this way, we're approaching our life in the world incorrectly, and it results in disappointments, bad health, and the unlimited cycle of rebirth. But if we approach our life in the world this way, that this world is here to support our body, and our body has been given to us so that we can use it to follow the path to God, now we've achieved a good, healthy combination of material and spiritual. The spiritual goal is our ultimate goal, but we also need to make use of the world. Natyashnatastu yogosti nachaikantamanashnatah nachati swapnashilasya jagrato naivacharjuna युक्ताहार विहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नोवबोधस्य युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः. Gita. Shri Krishna tells Arjun, this path of spiritual practice is not going to be successful for the one who sleeps too little, or who sleeps too much, or who eats too little, or who eats too much. One has to carefully live a balanced and healthy life. So eat the right amount, sleep the right amount, and discipline one's behavior. Then this spiritual path becomes successful. So you see, Gita is also telling us we cannot ignore the need for the world. Some people go so far as to say this world doesn't even exist. Ye sansar hai hi nahi. This world is just the product of our imagination. It's not real. We've all imagined this world to exist. But if that were the case, then why can't we just imagine that instead of listening to Nikhilanand Bhaya's speech right now, I'd rather be watching a cricket match. And this Bhakti Bhavan is big enough to play cricket in. We could have a cricket match right here. Just imagine a cricket match going on instead of my lecture. But it doesn't work that way, does it? You may also be thinking there's still half an hour until lunch. I wish I could have some food. I'm getting hungry. So if the world were fake, if it were just the product of your imagination, you could just imagine eating kulcha or kulfi or paratha or whatever you want to eat. Just imagine eating it. Why do you need the real thing? This world isn't real to begin with, so just imagine eating your food and your hunger will be satisfied. But we all know it's not the case. If it were the case, you could just imagine instead of me sitting here, there's an elephant sitting here. But no, you all see me. One of you isn't seeing an elephant, and one of you seeing a banana, and one of you seeing a horse. No, you're all seeing the same thing because I'm real, the world around us is real. This is also an age-old debate. And Jagat Guru Shri Kripaluji Maharaj has elegantly reconciled this debate as well between those who say, no, the world is real, and those who say, no, the world is fake. Shri Maharaji says it is both because there are two worlds. There's the outer world and the inner world. The outer world is real because it was made by God. Satyam bhutamayam jagat, Mahabharat. Satyad bhutani jatani sthavarani charani cha, Mahabharat. God is Satya, He's real, and the world was produced from Him. Yato va imani bhutani jayante. Yato va imani bhutani jayante. Taittiriya Upanishad says this world came out of God, and God is real, so the world must be real as well. This world is a product of Maya. Mayam tu prakritim vidyan, mayinam tu maheshwaram, Shvetashvatara Upanishad says Maya is God's power. It belongs to God. So Maya is real. And this world produced by Maya is real. The outer world. But the inner world, that we made. That's our inner world of desires and attachments and love and hate and thoughts. That is our mental creation. Let me give you an example. Let's say two friends are walking down the street. Both of them are jewelers. And as they're walking along chatting, they see something shiny on the ground ahead. And both of them, being jewelers, they have precious jewels on their mind. So when they saw the thing shining, both of them thought, this could be something valuable. And they raced each other to get there first. The one who was faster got there and picked it up, and he saw it's a diamond. And even though he didn't have his eyepiece on him, even with his naked eye, he could tell this is a real diamond and it's a valuable diamond. It could be worth $1 million. And the one who was slow, he didn't get there and he didn't get the diamond. So the one who grabbed that diamond, he is elated now. He is out of his mind jumping around in happiness because now he's a millionaire. And the other one who missed the chance, he's dejected. Oh, if I was a little bit faster, I would have been the millionaire. Now, a third person happens along and he sees this commotion and he inquires, what's going on? So they relate the story to him and he says, oh, that's interesting, and goes on his way. Now see, the diamond is one and it produced three reactions: elation, dejection, and neutrality. The diamond is real, but the reactions are self-created. Through their own thinking, the three different men had three different experiences of that diamond. For one, the diamond is a source of happiness. For another, the diamond is a source of unhappiness. Seeing it in his friend's hand, he feels unhappy. And for the third man, it had no effect on him. So the diamond is real, but those inner reactions, they're self-created. They're imagined. So we say they're unreal. They're very real to us, but we call them illusion or fake because they can be changed in an instant. What if the other man's friend said, oh, here, you have it. Now, all of a sudden, the diamond became a source of happiness for him. So because our inner world is so changeable, we say it's not real. It can change from moment to moment. So whereas the diamond is a real thing, our inner world is unreliable. It can change any moment. So just like you have a diamond and you have a piece of cubic zirconia, fake diamond, the diamond is real and we say this is fake. It doesn't mean it's non-existent, but as compared to the real diamond, it's fake. So our inner experiences seem very real to us, but as compared to the outer world, they're not real. They're our own creation, and they can be changed at any moment. Even what we experience as love and hate is not real. It's our own creation. Let's say you have a really good friend, your best friend, who has been loyal to you for your whole life and always supported you. Let's say somebody else you trust comes along and says, you know, that friend you think is so great, they were talking bad about you behind your back. They told this other person this dirty secret of yours. Now that love you had for your friend has turned to hate. You have been betrayed. How dare they? I trusted you. Now that in equal proportion to the love you had for that friend, you're now feeling hatred. Now let's say, because this is the age of cell phones and video recordings and social media, let's say someone happened to record the conversation, the alleged conversation, and it got posted on social media. And you got to watch the conversation, the video of that conversation, and you saw actually it was the other person who was talking badly about you, and your friend was standing up for you. They were loyal to you after all. Oh, now the hate has turned back to love. See, from love to hate and back to love in moments. So is the love real or is the hate real? Neither is real. Both exist only based on our positive or negative thinking. So that's the inner world and the outer world. The person is real, but our feelings towards them are not real. They're our own creation. So this is how Jagadguru Shri Kripaluji Maharaj has reconciled this debate between whether the world is real or not. He says it is real, the outer world is real, but your inner world is your own creation. So it's an illusion. So now let's come back to our original question. We have to detach our mind from the world so that the mind is free and we can surrender it to God. To find out how to do this, let's first inquire as to how did our mind get attached in the world in the first place. Gita says it's very simple. Dhyayato vishayan punsah sangasteshu pajayate. You did repeated thinking about someone or something, that this person or this thing could give me happiness. You thought about them over and over again, and that created an attachment. Gita uses the word dhyayata. You meditated on that person or that thing. We don't think of that as a form of meditation, but it is. When you keep thinking about someone in your heart, oh, this person will make me happy, you're meditating on them, and you're creating an attachment to them. So, we create attachments to people and things in this world by thinking repeatedly about them as a source of happiness. I'm leaving aside the negative part for now. You could also become attached to them by thinking of them that this person is very bad, they make me unhappy. Let's leave that part aside for now. It's our search for happiness that causes us to become attached in the world. So if we want to detach our mind from the world, we could just stop desiring to be happy. Then we would stop thinking about anyone or anything as a potential source of happiness, and we would stop forming worldly attachments. But that is not possible. You already learned, when you learned about the aim of life, that it is our nature to desire happiness because we are ansh of God. We're a part of God who is happiness. Because He is happiness and we're a part of Him, and it's the nature of every part to be attracted to their whole. It's the nature of every ansh to be attracted to their anshi. It is our nature to desire God, or you could say to desire happiness. So it is impossible, even if someone tried for millions of lifetimes to give up the desire for happiness, they would fail. It's our nature. So if we can't give up the desire to be happy, the next thing would be to change the field of our search for happiness. There are three things that exist: God, us, and the world, or Maya. We're the ones seeking happiness, souls. Up till now, we've been seeking happiness only in the world. So instead of ending the desire to be happy, just change the field. Instead of desiring happiness from the world, desire happiness from God. The problem is, you see, this is a nice logical statement. Instead of desiring happiness from the world, desire happiness from God. Tasmat dukhatmakam nasti naiva kinchit sukhatmakam Vishnu Puran. There is no happiness or unhappiness in the world, not even a drop. You just learned why that is true, because we create our own experience of happiness and unhappiness. Raso vai sah rasagvam hyevayam labdhvanandi bhavati. Taittiriya Upanishad. God is happiness, and only by attaining Him can you attain real happiness. See, the scriptures are telling us, and it's logical, but we're unable to act on that because our mind is already attached in the world, and we have a firm belief that we will find happiness in the world, and we also believe that we experience happiness on a daily basis. All of us believe this. You're telling me there's no happiness in the world, but I experience happiness every day. That's why I keep going back to the world, even though the saints and scriptures are telling me happiness is in God. So really what we need to do with the little time I have left here in this lecture is to understand what is that thing we think we experience in the world that we're calling happiness. You see, if there were really happiness in anything or anyone, we should all be able to experience it all the time and in equal amounts, right? If we're being scientific about it. Shouldn't everybody love the taste of onions if there's happiness in onions? There are some people who get happiness from eating onions and some people who don't. So the person who eats onions and experiences happiness will say, there is happiness in onions. And the person who dislikes the taste and smell of onions will say, there is unhappiness in onions. It all depends on our attachment. Take the example of a person. Let's say there's someone named Umesh, a businessman named Umesh, who has a sudden heart attack and dies. Umesh's wife is so shocked by the sudden loss of her husband that she falls unconscious due to grief. Umesh's son is also distraught and he's crying, but he's not so distraught to fall unconscious. He's crying. Umesh's friend is also sad, but he's not sad enough to cry. He's just feeling sad inside. There's a neighbor, Umesh's neighbor, he's having his morning chai, and his wife tells him, "Did you hear? Umesh next door just had a heart attack and died?" And he says, "Oh, yeah, these things happen." He goes on drinking his chai. Now, Umesh also had a business associate who owed him some money that was off the books. No one else knew about it. A substantial sum of money. That business associate is happy. He's gone. Now I'm free from that debt. Now let's say Umesh wasn't really gone. And although everyone thought he was dead, he started breathing and regained consciousness and sits up. Now his wife, who had herself just regained consciousness, is so shocked by the revival of her husband, she faints again. Her son, who was crying in grief, is now still crying, but he's crying in happiness. The friend is also happy, but not happy enough to cry about it. The neighbor, who's on his second cup of chai by now, hears the news and says, "Oh yes, these things happen," goes on drinking his chai. And his business associate is now very unhappy because he's not free from his debt. So if you were to inquire from all of these people, is there happiness in Umesh, and how much happiness, or is there unhappiness in him, you would get a different answer from each of them. Which one is right and why? Well, in fact, they all experience different levels of happiness or unhappiness from Umesh based on their level of attachment to him. The wife was more attached. Her self-interest was more dependent upon her association with her husband. Therefore, she felt the most grief when she thought he was dead and the most happiness when he revived. The son was less attached, so he felt less grief and less happiness. The friend was less attached, so he felt less grief and less happiness. The neighbor is not attached at all, so he felt neither grief nor happiness, and the businessman had a negative attachment to him, so he was happy when he thought he was dead and unhappy when he was alive. So you see, what we experience as happiness from a person, that doesn't mean there's happiness in the person. No. If there was happiness in a person, everybody would get the same happiness from the same person all the time. But you know, if your son has been away at college for a whole year and comes home after a whole year and you're having a party to welcome him home and you invite all your neighbors, you're so happy when you meet him. And your neighbors act happy because it's a social, normal thing to do, but they're not feeling much happiness seeing your son. Why? Because you're attached to your son. They're not. They're attached to their children. If a woman loses her child at a mela and goes and reports it to the police office, and there are 4 or 5 kids who had been lost that they're keeping there, and she sees her son. Now her son, let's say, is, because physically speaking, everyone is different. Some are more beautiful, some are less beautiful, some could be considered ugly. Let's say her son is not much to look at. And there in the police office, her son is there, and there are some other children who would be considered very beautiful and handsome and nice to look at. So if happiness were just received by beauty, she could just say, "I want that one." But no, she's attached to her son. So even though he may be ugly or malformed, she says, I want that one. He's mine. Because she's attached. She's going to get happiness from her son. She's not going to get happiness from these other children. So we get happiness from a person based on our level of attachment. If there were actual substantial happiness in any person, then everyone else in the world would get the same amount of happiness from that person. And the happiness wouldn't decrease. You know, when you've been separated from someone you're attached to and you're reunited, when you first meet them, you get a lot of happiness. But does the level of happiness remain the same? No. It goes on decreasing every moment until you feel kind of neutral almost towards them, or you may even start arguing with the person that you were so happy to meet. So the level of happiness doesn't stay constant, which it should if real happiness were in the person. And not only that, the very same person who makes you happy can also start giving you unhappiness. When you're really thirsty, water makes you really happy. When you're less thirsty, it makes you less happy. And when you just drank a full liter of water, if someone makes you keep drinking more water, the same water is going to make you unhappy. So is there happiness or unhappiness in water? Neither. There is no happiness or unhappiness in any person or anything in this world. If we accept that in our mind and we understand that all of the experiences of happiness we get are only based on our own positive thinking and attachment towards the world, then we will understand that we've never experienced real happiness. We've only experienced our own imagined kind of happiness. Imagine how have we been deceiving ourselves for lifetimes. We're like a dog who chews on a dry bone. Sukhi haddi. And as he's chewing away on it, the bone is sharp and it digs into his gums. He's chewing it with so much gusto, he cuts his gums and blood starts coming out of his gums onto the bone. Now the bone starts tasting good. This is a really tasty bone. He's tasting his own blood, which is soaked into the bone. The exact same thing we do in this world. We think we're getting happiness out of the world. We're not. It's our own mind that's creating this experience of happiness. Sometimes, even just a reduction in suffering is mistaken by us for happiness. Let's say you have 2 prisoners, and it's in a country where they allow all kinds of abuse of prisoners. So there's one prisoner who's being made to stand in the hot sun, 120 degree sun, 45 degrees centigrade sun. And on top of that, one of the guards is whipping him. The other prisoner is not being whipped, and he's not being made to stand in the sun. He's lounging in the shade of a tree. Now let's say the guard stops whipping the one prisoner. He feels so much relief. And he tells the other prisoner, hey, you get up, come and stand in the sun with this other guy. Now he's standing in the sun and he's miserable, so hot. Look now, the situation of both men is the same. Both are standing in the sun. One is happy and one is miserable. One is happy because before, on top of the heat, he was being whipped. Now at least he's not being whipped. He's relieved. The other one is miserable because before he was happily sitting, or at least he wasn't being made to suffer in the sun. He was in the shade, and now he's miserably standing in the sun. So the other prisoner thinks he's happy, but really he's still miserable. He's just less miserable than he was before. There is a constant state of dissatisfaction that we all experience. The level of dissatisfaction is constant. Why? Because our soul desires divine happiness, desires God. That creates this feeling of yearning and restlessness in our mind. We feel something's missing, right? And because of that, our mind is always busy, trying to find the thing that's going to fill that void every second. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishthatya karmakrit gita. Our mind never rests for a second. Why? Because it's being propelled by this restlessness. Find happiness. This is the demand of the soul. Of course, the soul is demanding divine happiness, but the mind doesn't know about God. It can't see God, but it does perceive the world. So it says, let me try to find happiness here. So, using the senses, we make use of all the objects of this world and indulge in them through our five senses and try to fill that inner void. But if you analyze, any time you're enjoying something, analyze it deeply. Am I still dissatisfied? And you will find the same level of dissatisfaction remains even at the height of enjoyment, at the height of worldly pleasure. Because the soul is still demanding divine happiness, and you're only giving it material enjoyment. So you might distract yourself from that feeling of restlessness. Like you have a brain tumor, so you have a headache. So you took some Tylenol. You got some relief from your headache, but you didn't cure the problem. When the Tylenol wears off, your headache comes back. You have to go to the root of the problem. Only then you'll be cured. That restlessness never goes away. Even when we're enjoying something, we still feel something is missing. So we might temporarily distract ourselves from that original demanding desire of the soul wanting divine happiness. We get some temporary relief from that feeling that we're incomplete. So we distract ourselves with our worldly enjoyments, but we never experience real happiness. And the soul never gives us that final okay. Yes, this is it. We've never felt that. We've always felt, that was pleasurable, but I feel like I need more. This is why it is said, worldly desires never end. Girir mahan girir abdhir mahan abdhir nabho mahan nabhasopi param brahma tatopyasha duratyaya. A mountain is great. Greater than the mountain is an ocean. Bigger than the ocean is the endless space. And greater than that is God, in whom the endless space resides. But do you know what's greater than God? Worldly desires. Because God can be attained through His grace, worldly desire never ends. There's never been a case in human history of someone who enjoyed so much that they said, bas, that's it, I don't need anything else. No, it goes on. The more you get, the more you need, because you're not giving what you really need, divine happiness. Your soul isn't getting one iota of enjoyment from billions of dollars or all the pleasures of the world. Okay, there's one last thing we have to understand about the nature of the world. We've understood that there's no true happiness in anything in this world. It's all a self-created experience, and our soul is actually demanding divine happiness. If we were a material being, the material world would have satisfied us long ago. But we're not. We're divine beings, so we need divine happiness. But one more thing becomes an obstacle for us. We believe the people of this world are mine. They love me. This belief also needs to be released. First of all, well, why? Because that creates a mental attachment. If we believe that this person is mine, they love me, they're going to make me happy, then my mind can't be surrendered to God because it's already surrendered to that person. So we need to understand, first of all, nobody in this world is mine forever. Kati naam sutana lalita kativane vadhur bhunji kvanute kvanutascha vayam bhavasangah khalupantha sangama. All the worldly relationships are temporary because they're based on our body. When our very body is not ours to keep forever, then how can any physical relationship last forever? There is no soul-to-soul relationship among souls. Soul is related to God. We are only temporarily related to each other in the world. Just like you get on a train. There were people sitting on the train before you got on it. You joined them. And then each person gets off when their stop comes. People keep getting on, people keep getting off. You're temporarily together with the people in that car. In the same way, you come into this life alone, but you join some people in your family. And then one by one, everybody leaves according to their own destiny and according to their own karma. So our relationships in this world are only temporary. Our true relationship is with Shri Krishna because He is eternally with us. He resides within our soul and accompanies us wherever we go in every life. He is the only one who's with us all the time. So He is our true relation. He is our soul beloved, our soul mate. There's no such thing as a soul mate in the world. God is your soul mate. Second thing, no one in this world can love you selflessly. We are all selfish. It's our nature. जेहि ते कछु निज स्वार्थ होई ता पर ममता करई सब कोई सुर नर मुनि सब किया रीति स्वार्थ लागी करहि सब प्रीति. It's a simple formula. The more you believe someone is fulfilling your self-interest, in other words, giving you happiness, the more you will love them. If they start fulfilling your self-interest a little less, your love for them decreases. If they no longer give you happiness, your love for them will also vanish. And it's the same way that they feel for you. You may say, if this is the case, then this is very bad. We're all very bad people. We're so selfish. No, it's our nature. We don't have happiness and we need happiness, and we can't think of anything else until we get divine happiness. After we attain God, then we can selflessly serve somebody else. Until then, we can only serve our self-interest. Vriksham kshina phalam tyajanti vihagah shushkam sarah sarasah pushpam paryushitam tyajanti madhupa dagdham vanantam mrigah nirdravyam purusham tyajanti ganika bhrashta shriyam mantrinah sarvah karyavashad jane bhiramate kasyastiko vallabha. It's our nature. Do birds stay in the tree after all the fruit has been eaten up? No, why would they? Does a swan stick around a dried up pond? No, why would it? Once the flowers have fallen off the plant, do bees keep coming and visiting the plant? Why would they? You don't call them bad for being like that, so why would you think we're being bad for being selfish? We're not. It's our nature, but we have to understand and accept that nature, that nobody is loving anybody else for their happiness. We love for our happiness. Where we feel our self-interest is being fulfilled, we love. And where we don't love. This is a very important piece. We have to understand this. So if we can accept that there is no happiness in anything or any person, and if we can accept that nobody loves us perfectly, selflessly, or for our happiness, but we all love for our own self-interest, then you have a good foundation to allow yourself to start detaching from the world and attaching to God. However, this is a process. It doesn't happen instantly. Otherwise, having heard this lecture, you would have all been perfectly detached, and that detached mind could instantly be attached to God, and you would have received His grace and gotten God realized. It doesn't happen instantly. It's a process. And that process requires a divine guide that we call a guru. But there are many questions that have to be answered around the topic of the guru. Like, who is a true guru? How do we find a guru? How do we recognize a guru? And how can we benefit from the association of the guru? These topics will be addressed in the next lecture. Albeli Sarkar Ki, Shrimat Sadguru Sarkar Ki, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe.